So we are on page Perek Chav Tes Pasuk Yud Tes, which is page 1086. No, 1088. So yesterday we were talking about if there's a rotten, what was it? How does the article translate? A piece of gall and wormwood. The rotten egg, who's a possible negative influence on other people. And then the Torah says like this. It says, 2 lines from the top. When he hears this, the curse, the various calamities, the various punishments, and he is confident, Shalom Eli, ki bishrirus libe elech, leman sfos harova es atzmeya. Now, this guy is confident, and we started talking about this yesterday. This guy's confident, and he thinks that I'm going to do what I want to do, and the Torah is not binding on me. And we spoke about that yesterday. That's a classic mistake. And then the Torah says, "Leman sfos harova es atzmeya." That's a very, very interesting turn of phrase. The article translated as, thereby adding the watered upon the thirsty. The watered upon the thirsty. Now, what's the difference between if you're watered or if you're thirsty? Rava literally means you are quenched. That's the good word. My thirst is quenched. Smeya means you're thirsty. What's the difference between quenched and when you're quenched, you don't feel like drinking, and when you're thirsty, you do feel like drinking, except for certain social drinks. Like a cup of coffee, you don't drink coffee if you're thirsty. Right? You don't drink liquor if you're thirsty. You drink Pepsi if you're thirsty. You drink Coke if you're thirsty. Cream soda, you should never be drinking because I don't like it. And I think White Sox fans drink cream soda. There's just something about it. But when you're thirsty, you don't even want to drink. I'm not interested in drinking. Here it's talking about various averas. There are certain averas that a person is thirsty to do, and there are certain averas that a person is not thirsty to do. How did he do those averas? He did those averas, let's say, b'shogeg, by accident. I didn't even know. I didn't know that this, some sort, let's say there's a food, and you thought that the food was kosher. You took a bag of Doritos, whatever it was there. They are kosher Doritos nowadays, by the way. Yeah, Doritos when I was growing up were not kosher. But yeah, there's a bag of Doritos, let's say, or a bag of some sort of chips, and it has an OR on it. As every package of any goods has an OR. But you thought OR stands for Orthodox, and therefore you thought it had a hechsher, and you got mixed up. Okay, so you did it unintentionally. Okay, what happens then if a guy decides, you know what, Torah is not binding on me, and the next day he goes and intentionally eats the corn chips? I don't care, but I know they're not kosher, and he eats them. Now, what normally wouldn't be held against him, it would only be considered the original avera would only be considered an unintentional avera. Now that you're showing total disregard for it, that means when you ate it yesterday, the fact that it was unintentional, but you would have done it intentionally anyway, and now you got yourself a double whammy. Now you're going to be held to the higher negative standard on that avera because you're demonstrated afterwards that you don't care anyway. So it happened to be a shogeg yesterday, happened to be unintentionally. The fact that it's unintentional, you obviously indicated. That's one of the explanations here. That even when you're already satiated, meaning that you had no desire for it, to do something wrong, and you accidentally did something wrong, but then later on, you show you do have the desire to do something wrong, so then retroactively you get tagged for the one that you did unintentionally because you show that I don't really care about it. I've demonstrated that I don't care. We find other examples of this. When a person, by the way, you could get credited for a mitzvah without having intention to do it. If somebody drops money and a poor man finds it, you get credited as if you've done what do you call it? As if you've given tzedakah. You got lucky that a poor man gave without effort. There's one mitzvah in the Torah you could never do intentionally. There's one mitzvah in the Torah you could never do intentionally. Could only be done unintentionally. One mitzvah. Does anybody know? What do you say, Nasha? Correct. When you forget a bundle in the field, it's called shikha, not shiksa, shikha. It's the forgotten bundle. I mean, you should forget about the non-Jewish girl, but here we're talking about you forgot the bundle and you walked past it. You're not allowed to go back and take it. You didn't even do it intentionally. And if you do it intentionally, you could leave it there for the poor people. Then you get a mitzvah tzedakah, but not shikha. You did not fulfill the mitzvah shikha. It could only be done unintentionally. Certain things in life could only be done unintentionally, not too many, but that's one of them. So here the Torah is saying, the man tzvos arova esatzveya. Then in Pasuk Yutes, Hashem says, okay, what's going to be the payoff here? Lo yove Hashem sloach lo. Hashem is not going to forgive him. Ki az yeshan af Hashem, Hashem's wrath. Now he should translate, if he translated literally, Hashem's anger will smoke against the man. Ooh. His anger will smoke. And the word af means nose. And we'll see why in a second. Vikin also ba'ishahu, against that man. Viravtza bo kola ola haksuva ba'sefer hazeh. All of the curses will happen, will affect that man. Umacha Hashem eshmo mitachas, Hashem will raise his name from under the heavens. These are fight man's words, right? The lesson here is be good. That's the lesson. Because not being good creates problems. Now take a look at Rashi for a second. Rashi says, it's the right column of Rashi, 2 lines from the bottom. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Yeshon af Hashem. Rashi says, al yedei kas, by means of anger, haguf mischamem. The body gets heated up. V'ha'ashan yotze mina af. And the smoke comes out. The person, when a person's angry, and it looks like he's a fire-breathing dragon. The smoke's coming out of his nose. In the cartoons, they always showed that, like smoke coming out. V'chein Allah ashan be'apo. So it uses a euphemism. Ve'afal pi she'ein ze lifnei hamokom, even though this obviously doesn't literally happen to Hashem. Hakasuv mashmiya es ha'ozen kederech she regila v'yichola lishma. The pasuk uses a terminology that we can relate to. And this is something that we find out in the Torah all the time. We see this idea that when it's talking about God, it was the finger of God, it was the hand of God. God doesn't have fingers, God doesn't have hands, God doesn't get angry, God doesn't have moods. It's talking about how we relate to it in order that a human being could somehow relate to something which is really beyond our comprehension totally. Okay. So one of the lessons here is, at least you got trouble, just to turn that towards me a little bit, the fan, yeah. Just be careful it's on the stand. Oh, that's good. No, that's good. That's good. Just be careful it's on the stand. Thank you. Because you guys don't like the air conditioning on, and you guys are always complaining about how cold it is, and you guys are wearing sweaters and scarves. So now I have a fan. So the what do you call? Thank you, Alicia. See, if I had wavy hair, so then it would be waving in the wind. People would think, like they do but I don't. Have any hair. So the lesson here is, what about a human being getting angry? And this is where Torah approach and the secular approach are completely at odds. Because the secular approach is, don't hold the anger in. You got to let it out, right? You got to let anger out. It's not healthy to keep it in, right? Whereas the Torah approach is, try to overcome your anger. I want to ask you a question. Imagine a guy gets upset. Now he's going to let the anger out. And he starts hollering and yelling and turning red, and smoke is coming out of his nostrils. Scenario number 1. Scenario number 2, a guy gets really upset, and he just kind of like, which one of those guys looks like closer to triggering a heart attack?
Number 1.
Right? Isn't that true? When a guy on TV, a guy's exploding, and his wife says, "Oh well, Frank, calm down. You get right." Nobody ever says to the guy who's sitting like this, "Let it out. You might have a heart. You could have a heart attack." It's only when the guy says, "So what does it mean to let it out?" What do you mean let out the anger? Letting out the anger is the worst thing you could possibly do for yourself. It affects the entire physical system. It raises the blood pressure. It does a million and one things. What's the Torah attitude? The Torah attitude is if somebody gets you angry, first of all, the idea, he got me angry. He didn't get you angry. You allowed yourself to get angry because of his behavior. How do you overcome anger from a Torah? Now, we've spoken in the past. Do you know that anger, or the Gemara says, if you see a person get angry, in your eyes it should be as if he's worshiping idols, correct? It's as if he's worshiping idols. What's the connection? Well, worshiping idols. I mean, guy got angry. What do you want? Guy cut me off in traffic. He slowed down, then speeded up right as it turned yellow, and he left me at the red light. I shouldn't get angry. I should shoot the guy. I should get angry? What do you mean I go, don't get angry? Why are we getting, what do you say, us? We'll see. First, answer my question. Why is it like idol worship? You lose wisdom when you're angry. So say you lose your wisdom. Well, idol worship?
Idol worshiping is not for logical people.
Oh, easy. Why is, what do you call it? Yeah, you're right. There are all sorts of negative consequences. Well, you jump to idol worship, the worst of error, because I lost my wisdom. So I lost my wisdom. That's idol worship? Where's the idol worship here? What do you say, Josh?
I think like maybe because you're really getting angry at God.
You're on the right track. What do you say, Alicia? Brief, 10 words or less. 10 words or less.
Give that person the power instead of when Josh said accepting it from Hashem.
Stop. Good. Perfect. In other words, what you really want, anger usually comes from the lack of being in control. When you really think about it, most of the things we get angry at, it's not the end of the world. I'm frustrated that I'm not in control. That means I'm frustrated that I'm not God. That means I have a sort of, I wish I was God, to push God out of the picture and make it me. That's a form of idol worship. It's not literal idol worship. And every time you see a guy get angry, you can't get two witnesses and bring them, hey, listen, calm down or you get skila. It doesn't work that way. But a person should realize that the anger is coming from, to a certain extent, putting God out of the picture, particularly because the guy who left you at that red light, it wasn't him. He was sent there by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we should see that everything that happens in our life, don't blame the person. If a person does something wrong, you can take him to Beis Din. But he was obviously an agent of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to test us. How do you overcome anger? So the Sfarim talk about the Musar Sfarim talk about how one overcomes anger. One of the things you do, you know, and I think there's this idea of counting to 10. What's the idea of count to 10? Count 10. Why do you count 1, 2? Why do you count to 10? Don't react. First count to 10. Give yourself a chance to calm down. Number 1. The problem is that sometimes it's like, 1, 2, 10. Right? So gotta pump your guts full of lead. The first thing is not to react. The key, the single most important factor when you get angry, don't talk. Don't talk. Once you start, this is particularly true in domestics, because it means in marriage. When you talk, then it starts coming out. Stop. Don't react. Don't say anything. That impulse will go away. As Rav Aaron Feldman put it, the Rosh Yeshiva of Ner Yisrael, anger is an impulse. And like every other impulse, it has to be controlled. There's no such thing as, I have anger. That's an expression you guys use nowadays. I have anger makes it sound like you got some justified, natural drive that can't be controlled. Not true. 100% false. There's like, I have anger. You have a bad midah, and like all bad middos, you have to, I have selfishness. Oh, good. And then I can take anything I want. I have shoplifting. I have pickpocket. No, it doesn't work that way. Work on it. In the same impulse that drives in other areas which is forbidden, we have to overcome the impulse. It takes work, and you're not going to be perfect, and there are ways to work on it, and so on and so forth, but it has to be worked on. When you start talking, if somebody, especially domestics, if somebody gets you upset at home, so did you ever see somebody go, how many times do I have to tell you, I'm there, and it's almost like a volcano erupting. Where did it come from? Because he started talking. As soon as you start talking, it doesn't. This idea of letting it out only makes it worse, not better. And there's another way to control. What's that?
The other person starts.
That's right. It goes back. The best thing to do, if you want to try to control your anger, go look at yourself in a mirror when you're having a temper tantrum. You'll look absolutely like an imbecile. That should be that right there, to see how you look when you're angry. That right there should be a motivator. Now, we're not perfect, and people do get angry, and that's what the Torah is telling you over here. Number one. Number two, there's a big question here. Torah says, Lo yove Hashem slach lo. Hashem won't forgive him. Now, the commentaries ask over here, Hashem won't forgive. This guy's a rebel. He's a rotten egg. He's rejected the entire Torah. And then the pasuk says in fifth line from the top, Lo yove Hashem slach. Hashem won't forgive him. Well, this is the classic Gemara mimanavshach, guys. This is where the thumbs go up. Right, ready? This is the Gemara thumbs. If the guy didn't do tshuva, so why should Hashem forgive him? And if the guy did do tshuva, so then Hashem does forgive him. So what do you mean? Hashem won't forgive him. Yeah, what's the chiddush over here? What's the novelty? Of course Hashem's not going to forgive him. He didn't do tshuva. Why should Hashem forgive him? Guys, the guy's a renegade over here. Why should Hashem forgive him? Why do I need to tell Hashem? Just tell me Hashem will get angry and he's going to smoke him and he's going to this and he's going to that. Why did it say Hashem won't forgive him? He's going to get angry. He's going to smoke him. Why did it tell me he's not going to get angry? Of course Hashem's not going to forgive him. Why do you tell me he's not going to forgive him? Here's the question. Okay, good. The question is, if somebody does multiple averas, rebels against the Torah, completely disregards all of God's commands, will Hashem forgive him? Does Hashem forgive him? If he does tshuva. And if he doesn't do tshuva? No. So why do I need the Torah to tell you Hashem won't forgive him? If he does tshuva, then Hashem will forgive him, so it's not accurate. So when the Torah says Hashem won't forgive him, we're obviously talking about somebody who didn't do tshuva. So why do we need to tell me Hashem won't forgive him? Obviously, he's not going to forgive him if he didn't do tshuva. And if he does do tshuva, so then it also won't, it's inaccurate to say that Hashem won't forgive him because he will forgive him. You hear the problem? So anybody got an attempted answer? What do you say, Hoodie?
Maybe it's talking about like all these punishments that are going to happen to him, like those don't like help for his like tikkun. He has to go out and actually do teshuvah.
We know that.
These punishments that happen.
You mean the punishments aren't even going to serve as an atonement for him? Okay, interesting. So what the Mefarshim say is there's something called Habola Taher Poschidlo. When somebody wants to do the right thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu opens the door for him. Habola Taher Misayinoso. Sorry, got it wrong. Somebody wants to do the right thing, you get divine assistance. Hashem helps you if you want to do the right thing. A guy decides he wants to go to Minyan the next morning for the first time. Hashem, and he normally gets up at 9 o'clock in the morning. Hashem will help him that he'll wake up at 7. Yeah, the help could come in many different ways. It could be, a noisy roommate. It could be, but Hashem will help you one way or another. Somebody who wants to do Aveirah, says Abola Tameh, one who wants to do an Aveirah, Poschidlo. The door's open. We don't push you through the door. You don't get help to do the Aveirah, but there's no restraint in doing nothing stops you. When you want to do a mitzvah, or you want to do tshuva, HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps. HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps you to do tshuva. A guy that says, listen, I want to turn over a new leaf. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help you. This guy won't get that help. Won't stop him. Lo yova Hashem slach lo. Hashem won't help you to get the forgiveness. You want to do it? You dug yourself the hole? Now crawl your way out. I used to tell my kids, when my kids came over, they'd ask me, should we do this? Can we do this? What do you think? I would tell my kids, listen, I don't think it's a good idea. Now, do what you want. You're going to do what you want anyway, but one condition. Don't come back to me once you're in serious trouble. Every time I got in trouble in high school, not an infrequent occurrence, whether within school or with my parents, whatever it was, I was always sitting there thinking, what would my brother do in this situation? My older brother, the tzaddik. right? What would he do in this situation? And unfortunately, the answer was always the same, which was he wouldn't be in this situation. That was all. He just wouldn't be in this situation. And I managed to always find myself in a situation. So if a person understands that, look, I'm not helping you. You dug your hole. Now dig your way out. What we call siyata d'shmaya. What we call siyata d'shmaya, Hashem's assistance. Lo yova Hashem slach lo, the Mefarshim say over here, listen, you got to this point. There's nobody who can't do tshuva. There's nobody who can't do tshuva. The most anti-religious, leftist, anti-everything can do tshuva. We're not going to help you. You haven't even earned. Somebody who didn't know about tshuva, guy says searching, I want to find him, do the right thing. That's one thing. But you haven't earned, this guy has not earned the privilege of Hashem even helping him out. Therefore, you're on your own. That's what the Mefarshim say. Okay, let's go on. We got a lot to cover. Parsha is very cryptic over here, so we have to go pasuk by pasuk. But it says like this: V'amar adora acharon, the later generation will say, pasuk chaf. We skip pasuk chaf. V'ivdilo Hashem l'ra mikol shiftei Yisrael. Hashem will set him aside from all the tribes. Kechololos abrisa ksuva b'sefer hazeh, which are written all these curses. V'amar adora acharon. The later generation will say, B'nechem asher yekumu me'acharechem, your children, V'anochri asher yovo me'eretz rechoka, the guy who comes from a distant land, V'ro es makos aretzi v'stachlos, see all the various calamities that happen in Eretz Yisrael. Asher chila Hashem ba. Everybody see where I am? I'm pasuk Chav Gimel, Chav Beis now. Gofris v'melach, sulfur and salt, Sreifa chol arza, the entire land burnt. Some say this is referring to the period of the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. Different opinions. Lo si zora v'lo satzmeach, the land won't be planted and it won't sprout. Eretz Yisrael lay desolate for hundreds and hundreds of years until the Jews came back to the land, and then the Palestinians, the Arabs decided, oh, it's ours. Yeah, where were you when it was? Where were you all this time? Boker Tov. They're no big Kima pecha stom va'amora, like the overturning of stone in Amora, Adba v'tzvoim, the famous overturning of made these countries, these cities into pancakes. Asher hafach Hashem be'apa uvachamos, when Hashem turned over with his wrath and his anger. Then ve'amru ha'goyim, now pay attention carefully. The goyim, by the way, the word goy, I've said many times, is not a pejorative. There's nothing, it's not a negative word. Sometimes it's used by, ooh, you goy, right? Little kids who call each other a goy. You're a goy. We're called a goy. A goy means a nation. We're called a mamleches kohanim. The goy kadosh, we're a holy nation. And we use it in the vernacular as there's a Jew and a goy. But we're also a goy, because a goy means a nation. So the Torah says, "Ve'amru kol hagoyim," the other nations are going to say, "Al me'asa Hashem kachol ha'aretz." Why did Hashem do this? Why did Hashem take it out in the land of Israel? The goyim are going to say that. Mechori ha'af hagadol hazeh. What is this terrible wrath? What's the answer going to be? Ve'amru, they'll say. So according to some, it'll be the Jews will explain it to them. Different opinions what ve'amru is referring to. You know why Hashem took it out on the land of Israel? Why there's a destruction and why Jews went into exile? Why so much anger? Al asher azvu es bris Hashem elokei avos, and they forsook the covenant. Asher koras imam b'otzias eretz Mitzrayim, they forsook the covenant when they left the land of Israel. Now, when they left the land of Egypt. Now, first of all, one thing has to be clear. The goyim know we're different. They know we're different. And one of the things that Hitler himself said, I think the expression was, the Jews are the conscience of mankind. So the standard that we're held up to in all areas of life, oh, the Jews, they're always stealing. Nobody else in the world steals. Look at any federal penitentiary. Nobody steals. Nobody else commits crimes. Only Jews do. So if somebody goes in and does something in some other country, okay, they'll turn a blind eye this, blind eye that. If a Jew builds a balcony somewhere in one of the settlements, the whole world's up in arms. The Jew built a balcony. They're taking over the settlement. The Jews. One Jew does something wrong, it's all the Jews. They group us together. But they recognize there was a guy, what do you call it? It was an Israeli who went to Africa, finished the army, and he went on his world tour. He was somewhere in the jungles of Africa. And he was driving around in a Jeep. Somehow he had a Jeep. He's driving around, and he sees this poor barefoot African kid comes out on the road like this. So he stops his Jeep, and he reaches in, and he sees the kid's hungry. So he reaches in, he has some food, whatever it is, and he gives the kid the food. And as he gives the kid the food, all of a sudden out of the bushes, he's surrounded by 25 tribesmen with blades. And this was a standard scheme that they would pull on people driving through. They send the kid out, then they surround with blades, and they take all your money and possibly your life. So he's in trouble. So the head of the leader, who says to him in broken English, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Israel." As soon as he said that, all 25 took a step back, and they bowed down like that. They went, "You the chosen people. You the chosen people." And they let him, give him back his stuff and let him go. Because they recognize that we're the chosen people. Well, we are the chosen people. And they know that we're the chosen people. So when they see that we're not behaving, they lose respect for Jews who don't behave like Jews. They lose respect for us. When a Jew maintains his standard, my mother, when she was in nursing, she was in a Catholic nursing school. And so one of the girls, she was already in, I was about 17, 18 at the time. But, they were all college students she was with. She's already in her 40s. And one of the girls, she became friends with one of these girls who was, Catholic, who wasn't very religious. She was a non-religious Catholic. And my mother said to her, what's the deal? Do you go to church? She goes, no, not really. She goes, why not? She goes, well, if our church was as consistent as your church, then maybe I would. Because she recognized my mother's consistency. She wouldn't eat their food. She'd explain to them about kosher. She was dressed, she said, your way of doing it is more consistent. If my church was consistent like your church, maybe, but I see the inconsistency. They realize, they see us, and therefore they say, hey, what did you guys do? How did you mess up so bad? What's wrong with you people? How did you get God so upset with you? Number one. Number two, I'm going to tell you something very, 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 very sharp, very severe. But unfortunately, it's true. You see, there's a difference between an individual Jew who goes to the bad. Okay, everybody's got their Yetzer Hara. Everybody's got their drive. Okay, yeah, you're accountable. We're accountable. But when it's a violation of the pact, remember the Torah says, look what it says in the wording. The Amru, pay attention. Look, gentlemen, pay attention carefully. It's 7 lines at the bottom. Come on, get with it. We're looking at Hashem's Torah over here. It's not a ball game. It says 7 lines from the bottom. The Amru al Asher Azvu es bris Hashem Elokeinu. They violated the covenant. That means there was a collective violation of the covenant. And when there's a collective violation of the covenant, trouble comes. And unfortunately, and again, I'm not a what do you call it? I'm not an extremist by any sense, in any sense of the word. I don't think, maybe I am, maybe you see me as an extremist. I don't think I'm an extremist. I don't go out there and burn garbage pails and garbage cans and I don't participate in protests. Maybe I don't know if that's extremism or just laziness. But whatever it is, I'm not. I can say I'm not really an extreme. But you have a modern state of Jews who have overridden the Torah with secular law. That's a dangerous situation because it's a violation of the covenant. Where guys are getting arrested for studying Torah And it's only happening. When's the last time Jews got arrested for the Torah? Only in communist Russia. Didn't have a, Jews that get arrested. They just arrested 20 guys at the airport yesterday. Okay, they were trying to go to, they should have known not to because they said you'll get arrested if you haven't gone to the army. But what's happened is there's been a complete distortion of values. What makes us the Jewish people, gentlemen? Only the Torah. Remember I told you, we don't have a country. We don't have Jew land. Italians are called Italians because they come from Italy. And the French are called the French, if we're in a good mood and don't want to call them a different name. But if the French are called the French, because they come from France, and people from Oregon are called, I guess, what are they called? Oregon or America. Yeah, well, if you're from Michigan, you're called a Michiganer, right? You didn't know that, huh? If you're from Chicago, you're a Chicagoan. If you're from London, I don't know what you call it. If you're from Liverpool, this is a tough one. What are you called?
Scouts.
No, that's a negative term. A liver. That's correct. You're not called a Liverpoolian. You're called a Liverpudlian. How do I know that? I don't know, but I know that. But wherever you're from, whatever country you're from, that's who you are. If you're from Japan, you're Japanese. If you're from, where's Jewland? The desert. That's our homeland, is the Midbar. Why? Because that's where we got the Torah. So we are Jews because we have a Torah. So now you're taking and creating a country based on Greco-Roman law and holding us to that standard and overriding the Torah. Well, my friends, that's a violation of the bris. It's not an individual. That's a policy of overriding the Torah. That's always dangerous for all of us. That's a danger for all of us. I'm not a prophet. I don't know if you know that. I am not. Any rumors to the contrary notwithstanding, I am not a Navi. And I don't know why there's anti-Semitism all over the world. All I can tell you is that the entire purpose of the founding of the State of Israel was a way of putting an end to anti-Semitism. I don't know if you read the news, but it doesn't seem to be working. Just ask the intellects at Harvard, Yale, Stanford, and all these other fancy places where there's tremendous anti-Semitism. So where's it coming from? Well, the Torah says if you violate the covenant, I'm not talking about what political approaches there should be and what would be and how it should be. I don't know. Go ask somebody else, somebody who knows. I can only tell you that the way it's happening right now is going clearly against the pasuk of the Torah, and it's not working. It's not working. And sometimes it's what came first, the chicken or the anti-Semitism. Oh, well, we need an army to defend against our enemies. Well, why are the enemies starting up with us? Maybe the enemies are starting up with us because we're behaving a certain way, and if we would behave better and be loyal to her, then we wouldn't even need the army to fight the enemies. I don't know. We need a prophet for that. You need a Navi for that. But a Torah is a Nevuah. The Torah is a prophecy. That's what it says. Let's go on. Got that off my chest. Okay, now I'll tell you something remarkable. Ready? This is absolutely astonishing. I need a Koheles. Oh, we should have it in the Chumash. It should be in the Chumash itself. Ecclesiastes. Okay, we'll show. Yeah, we should have it. It should be there. Yeah, it's there. 1278. Okay, don't hold on to it. Keep the place inside. We're going to get there in a second. So, take a look at Pasuk 27. And it says like this. Vayitche, bottom, 2 lines from the bottom. After all the trouble, it says, Vayitche Hashem me'al admasam. Hashem tossed them off their land. Be'afu v'chema, with wrath, anger, with a ketzav gadol. Vayashlichem el eretz acheres kayom hazeh. And he sent them off to another land, kayom hazeh, like as of this day or like this day, as this very day. Now the obvious question everybody asks over here is why there's a big lamed. There's a big lamed. That means when you look in a Sefer Torah, there's actually a big lamed that's written into the Sefer Torah. When you look at the Sefer Torah, it says Vav Yud Shin, and then a big lamed, Vayashlichem el eretz acheres kayom hazeh. Okay, so I want to show you something remarkable. Turn to Koheles, Perek Gimel Pasuk Daled. What page is it? 1280. Yes. Okay. 1280. You're good. Good. Keep your finger on the place over here. Put the blue strap down. That's tcheles, by the way. What do you call it? And put it. And I'll take a look at Paragibel of Koheles. It's right in the middle of the page where you see the big white space over there in the middle. So it says like this. Shlomo HaMelech says, "Lakol zman ve'es." There's a time for everything. L'chol chayfetz tachas hashamayim. Pay attention carefully. Ace lettuce. There's a time to give birth. Glad it ain't us. Ve'es lamus. There's a time to die. Ace latas. There's a time to plant. Everybody see where I am? Ve'es la'akor. That's what sometimes you got to uproot things. It goes on through all these various times for various things. And remarkably, look at Pasuk Dalet. It's a Eis Laharog, there's a time to kill. That's what we're learning in the Gemara, right? If you see a pursuer, you got to kill him. Ve'eis Lirpot, time to back off. Eis Lifrots, ve'eis Livnos, sometimes to break, sometimes to build. Apparently my grandchildren have learned this Pasuk well. Eis Lifrots, their time to break. You know, they sometimes that Pasuk they seem to have mastered. Then it says Eis Livkos, time to cry. Time to cry. Ve'eis Lischok, go ahead, Alicia. Right, time to laugh. Then it says Eis Sifod, there's time to eulogize. Ve'eis Rekod, time to dance. And you'll notice in this entire list of various things to do, if you go through the list, this is the only pasuk where it doesn't say Eis Lispod ve'eis Lirkod. It says Eis Sifod ve'eis Rekod. All of a sudden it dropped the lamed. All the other ones, look at the entire list. Eis Leho ve'eis Lisno. There's even a beautiful song, La Kol Zman V'eis. You ever heard that song? And you ever heard me sing? That's time to cry when I sing. Eis Livkos, right? There's a beautiful song. Eis Leho. You never heard that? Okay, you probably, once I sing it, you probably don't want to hear it. So you'll notice that the only time it says, without a lamed, Eis Sifod ve'eis Rekod. There's a time to eulogize, time to dance, and it doesn't have a lamed there. Okay. Eis milchama ve'eis shalom. That's at the end. But up until that point, it doesn't say it. Up until that point, it doesn't say it. So why? Why is it left out? Why is it left out? One of the reasons is because there is no Eis limilchama. It's Eis lil chom. Eis lil chom. Okay, but you're right. But before you get there, up until the first 30, there's no what do you call it? Okay. So, what does a lamed stand for? The word lamed, what does it even mean? What is the word lamed? Every letter means something. What does lamed mean? Like lomaid. Lamed is like lomaid, which is what? To learn, to study Torah. Now, there's a halacha, and you were asking about Bittul Torah this morning. There's a halacha. If you're involved in something, do you stop what you're doing to get involved in a mitzvah, or do you continue learning Torah? The answer is, what do you say, us? Depending on if the mitzvah could be done by somebody else or not. If it's a mitzvah she'efshar al yedei acherim, then you continue learning Torah. If it's time sensitive, then you have to stop learning Torah in order to go and do the mitzvah. Which two mitzvahs do we stop learning Torah for? And not only that, there's no limit to how many people can participate. One of them is getting involved with the burial, when you bury people, anything having to do with the deceased. And the other one is to gladden people at a wedding. So you'll notice that when it goes through in Koheles, when it says Eis Leho, Eis Lisho, all of a sudden, Eis Sifod, it's time to eulogize. Put aside the learning and get involved in the funeral. Eis Rekod, there's time to dance, to go cheer up a bride and a groom. Put aside the learning. But what's the connection to the pasuk here in the Torah? The Torah says it's specifically when Hashem throws them out of the land, all of a sudden there's a big lamed. Well, I don't understand. If when it's missing, it alludes to the idea of setting aside the learning. So then if there's a big lamed, what does that sound like? More learning. Oh. When was there an increase in Torah learning? Specifically when we got thrown out of the land and sent to where? Galut of specifically Bavel. What Gemara are we learning? Talmud Bavli. Why? They went to Bavel, and Talmud Bavli there was an increase of learning in Bavel. And therefore the Torah is, thank you, Alicia, for the accompanying sound effects. The Torah is alluding to Vayashliche bel eretz acheres. Yeah, God exiled us to a different land. But what happened in that land? Increased our Torah learning in that land, and that gets a big dang, as Alicia said. All together now, say it again. There you go, dang. We got an increase of Torah learning when we went to Babel. And that's what the Vilna Gaon says. Why the last one by Milchama, it doesn't, you're right, it drops the lamed over there. I don't know. The Vilna Gaon doesn't mention that. He mentioned, this all comes from the Vilna Gaon, that it drops it by the first, until you get to that point. You have to check on that. That's a good question. Here, the Torah then says, Hashem sent them out kayom hazeh. What is kayom? He sent them out as of this very day. The Gemara says, actually, there's a machlokas here. There's a machlokas in the Gemara about whether or not the 10 tribes who are exiled from the land of Israel, they were the first ones exiled when there came the destruction. Do the 10 tribes, are they going to return? Do they have a portion in the world to come? Rabbi Akiva says they don't have a portion in the world to come. They're not going to come back. Where does he learn it from? Kayom hazeh. When the day goes, never comes back. Day's gone. The day never comes back. Rabbi Akiva says the comparison, Kayom hazeh, they're sent off, they'll be exiled, they're never coming back. Just like when a day leaves us, the day never comes back. Rabbi Eliezer says to the contrary. The day goes, but then what happens? Comes back the next day. The sun rises the next day. So there's a machlokas in the Gemara whether the 10 tribes actually are going to have a return. Are they going to come back? Are they going to rejoin the Jewish people? And ultimately, do they have a portion in the world to come? It's a machlokas, Rabbi Eliezer. How to darshan the pasuk, Dovid, that's for you. How do we darshan the pasuk? According to Rabbi Akiva, they're not going to come back. According to Rabbi Eliezer, they are. Now, more than that, the idea of the big lamed, which is ironic. They left Eretz Yisrael, and then they went off to Bavel, and that's what we studied. The Talmud Bavli is more authoritative than Talmud Yerushalmi. And we spend our time studying. You could learn Talmud Yerushalmi. You have to learn that also. You have to learn the entire Torah. But the way the Gemara itself puts it, the increase of Torah took place ironically when the Jews went off to Babylonia. Josh, what do you want to ask?
What tribe do we say that the Ethiopians are from?
Don't know.
Don, right?
I'm not aware what we say. What we say, my opinion on what people say is, do you have a source in Torah for saying it? If you have a source in Torah for saying it, then okay, let me see the source in Torah where it comes from. Or people say it doesn't really interest me because I need an authoritative source. People say a lot of things.
But if they were from Don, that would mean that
Don't know. I can't even speculate on something that I don't know a source for. I need to know a source. Once I know a source, when I know a source, it's something else. If you show me a source, that's something else. But
just take the word from the Ethiopians?
Because I don't know a source. I need a source. A lot of people say a lot of things. Some people say that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Chas v'sholom. again. So I need a source. Sam, that's for you, and I know you're watching. And what do you call it? I need a source for that. When I don't have a source, anything that a lot of things people say, isn't there a law? Isn't there like a minhag that we do this or minhag? Show me a source. People, Judaism is not something where we can just everybody tosses around their opinion and their idea. We're talking about serious stuff over here.
Rabbi, when somebody comes to you and tells you you're a Kohen, they have proof the same as Ethiopian. They say they're from Shevet.
I don't know who they is. When somebody shows me a source,
we have people that say they're from.
so they could. I didn't say. I
Where's
did.
the source?
Are you asking a question or you're making a statement?
Question. Where's the
Okay,
source?
if you have a question, if you're asking, okay, so I'll answer. A question I will answer. A statement I don't answer. A statement I say, oh. And if I'm in a particularly talkative mood, I say, okay. Right? A question I will attempt to answer if somebody is asking me a question. And I'll attempt to answer. A Kohen has what's called a chazaka. My father was a Kohen. My father's father was a Kohen. I am presumed to be a Kohen. If we have that same chazaka by the tribe of Dan, that they are the Ethiopian Jews, if there is a chazaka like that, fine. I want to see a source. I don't have a source. They can say it. A lot of people say a lot of things. They can say whatever they want to say. And perhaps there is a source. I didn't say there isn't. I didn't say there is. I said I don't know the source. For Kohanim, today we treat Kohanim as Kohanim because the halachic source says that there is a chazaka for Kohanim. It could be you're right. It could be you're 100% right that they actually have a halachic source that says that. All I'm saying is I don't know the source. There are a lot of things I don't know. I don't know how much money my wife is spending today with my credit card. I also don't know that. There is a chazaka that it is going to be more than I would have wanted her to, and there is a chazaka that therefore my blood pressure will go up, but I don't know the source. Certain things I do know, certain things I don't know. So with that, if there's a chazaka and there's a halachic chazaka, so it could be, then it's a machlokas, but I don't know the source. I don't know the source. It could be other people that know the source.
Right,
It could be.
if there was, if there is, would that prove that it's not the Hayom Hazeh that
No. We can't project on, but what is, we don't know, even if they have a source, is it genuine, and so on and so forth. It's a complicated subject. Okay. All right, gentlemen, we're done.